Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and welcome to another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats. And today I will be your host. And in this episode, this is a future story. Or it's a story which was based on a dream I had. Either a daydream or a dream when I was sleeping soundly and happily one night. And it was a dream set in the future, say around about roughly, about 2026, something like that. So in about another, just over 2.5 years, something like that. Around about that time, so very much in the future, very much future ahead. But I don't expect this to happen in real life. No, certainly not. It was just based on a dream. It was only a dream I had, you know. So, but this dream I had, it was, say, a future Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event. And let's say it's Eastbourne Magnificent Motors 2026. And obviously it was going to be myself, David Scott and Dave Bryan to be attending. But we were going to have some additional people joining us. Those additional people joining us was going to be Hutchie and his wife Mel and the lovely lady Jacqueline, who was vacationing over in the United Kingdom from New Mexico at the time, but she was not staying in the United Kingdom permanently. She was only vacationing for a great few weeks before flying back over to New Mexico in the United States of America. But it was going to be an exciting day. And so I got up out of bed, fed the two girls, Daphne and Nixie, showered up, got dressed, had a nice rewarding porridge breakfast, made my lunch to take with me, and once that was all done, walked out of the house, got on the bus to get to Churchill Square, and then got out of Churchill Square, got to the direct Eastbourne bus, and then walked from the Eastbourne bus stop towards the Magnificent Motors site. And once I got to the Magnificent Motors site, there was David happily waiting for me alongside Dave Bryan. David, nice to see you two here. Hello matey, hello Foxy, David said, how are you? Ah, hi Foxy. Dave said, well, didn't you say we were to be expecting more people? Dave asked in confusion. Well, yes Dave, we certainly are, but Hutchie and Mel and Jacqueline are expected to be arriving shortly after I am. Just to say. Oh, right, okay. And in a way, Dave, I said, I think it's really more kind if we waited. If they came, or I think it's really more kind if they arrived whilst we are already there at Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event. Right now, that's happening right now. Understand the point, Dave said. There's a point to be made, you know. I ended up nodding in a total agreement to Dave's response. David gave just a slight little nod in a total agreement as well. Then before long, we saw a reasonably short lady, well, quite short lady, walking towards us, and the moment she saw myself standing with David Scott and Dave Bryan, she gave me a wave as she recognised who I was. That's got to be Jacqueline, I said to David and Dave, smiling. Hello, Jacqueline, hi. Hello, Jacqueline said. Oh, Foxy, nice to see you, Jacqueline said. And so we walked over and greeted each other with a nice strong handshake and then a nice hug at the same time. "Oh, it's so nice to see you, Jacqueline," I said, and then I gave her a nice respectable kiss on the cheek. "So lovely to see you here. We've been looking forward to seeing you since the moment we arrived here at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event showground," I said to Jacqueline. "Oh, it's wonderful seeing you here," Jacqueline said to me. "I must say, Foxy, I've been looking forward to seeing you, and I've certainly been looking forward to seeing your best friend, David Scott, and your good friend, Dave Bryan. Where are they? I'd like you to introduce me to them." "Oh, yes, yes," I said to Jacqueline in response. I will take you to them right now." And so I began walking with Jacqueline, and then Jacqueline saw David and Dave. "Oh, David, Dave, this is Jacqueline, who's vacationing over here from New Mexico in the United States of America, over here in England in the United Kingdom." "Hello, Jacqueline, how are you?" David said as he extended his right hand out to shake hands with Jacqueline. "Oh, David, nice to see you." And in a way, rejecting the handshake, Jacqueline just went for giving David a hug. "Oh, David, I've heard so much about you," she said as she began to tightly embracing my best friend, David Scott. "Oh, I've heard so much about you. I've been looking forward to seeing you," she said in excitement. Okay, could you let me go now, please?" David asked kindly. Jacqueline wouldn't let go unless she gave David a kiss on the cheek, and then she respectfully and gently let him go. "I'm so looking forward to exploring the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event with you, including Hutch and Mel. They should be here before we know it." Jacqueline said, "Oh yes, I too am looking forward to seeing Hutch and Mel as well. I think Hutchie and Mel will certainly very, very greatly enjoy the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event for sure. You know, I'd quite like to see Hutch and Mel myself," Dave said. "But I wonder where they are." Yeah. I said, "Oh, and Dave, just to say, this is Jacqueline, who's came over from New Mexico in the United States of America, over here to England in the United Kingdom." "Oh, hi, Jacqueline," Dave said. "It's Dave." "Oh, Dave, nice to see you," Jacqueline said as they both respectfully shook hands together. But then Jacqueline went for giving Dave a hug. "Oh, I've heard much about you," Jacqueline said to Dave. It's wonderful seeing you here," and then she gently let him go. "It's nice seeing you too, Jacqueline. I hope you had a safe flight all the way from New Mexico in the United States of America over to England in the United Kingdom." "Oh yes, it was a long flight, a long haul flight, Dave, but it was worthwhile and definitely worth the effort." "Very many things are certainly worth the effort, Jacqueline," I said in response. "But certainly as a flight from the United States of America over to the United Kingdom, it's certainly a great big trying effort if oneself takes it forward and all the rest of things, you know." "Very right indeed, Foxy," Jacqueline said. "Well, the only people we're waiting for are Hutch and his wife Mel." Jacqueline said. "You're far too right on that," I said. "Oh, I think we can see them," I said. He was like, "Well, where are Hutch and Mel, Foxy?" David asked. I could see them in the distance, and there, in the distance, was Hutch and Mel. They were walking around, observing all the classic cars, but walking straight forwards. "I think I'm going to give him a wave so that they can notice us," I said, and so I began to wave my hand out towards Hutchie and Mel. Hutchie, who got distracted by the waving, saw me waving and instantly recognised me when I was standing waving. And He immediately smiled and stuck his thumbs up, and both he and Mel began walking over towards us. Hey, Foxy, how you doing, man? Hutchie said as we both shook hands. Nice to see you, Hutchie. Goodness, you've got a strong handshake, but it's nice to see you. Hello, Foxy, Mel said. Oh, hello, Mel. It's certainly most lovely seeing you here at Eastbourne Magnificent Motors. We've been looking forward to the event since we got up this morning, Mel said. And we've been looking forward to seeing you all week. I have too. Oh, and Hutchie and Mel, I said as Hutchie and Mel was standing in front of me. Here is my best friend. Please meet my best friend, David Scott, my good friend Dave Bryan, and here is Jacqueline, who came over here from New Mexico in the United States of America while she is vacationing here over in the United Kingdom. Oh, hey, Jacqueline, nice to see you. Oh, Hutch, Jacqueline said as she quickly walked over to Hutchie and then put her arms around him, embracing him with a nice hug. Oh, it's so nice to see you, she said. And then she gave Hutchie a kiss on his cheek and then gently let him go. How was your flight over from New Mexico over to England, Jacqueline? It was a long-haul flight, but it was worth the effort, Jacqueline said positively. And it's nice to see you, Mel. Oh, it's nice to see you, Jacqueline, they said as they walked over and gave each other a hug. And then they gently let go. I'm happy you had a safe flight over from New Mexico to England. And Jacqueline, Mel said, and we're happy to see you all right. And right, shall the six of us enjoy exploring Eastbourne Magnificent Motors? Oh, it's 5 of us, Mel, just to say. Oh, wait, yes, it is the 6 of us, because there's myself, David, Dave, Jacqueline, yourself, and Hutchie, your dearly loved husband, so it's 6 of us. Sorry, Belle, I got confused, I said. There's no need to apologise, man, Hutchie said. We all make mistakes. It was easily said than done, Foxy. And so we began observing all the classic cars, or whatever cars that were to be seen at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors 2026 event. I got my camera recorder out, David got his camera recorder out, and also Dave got his camera recorder out, and we did some vlogging of all of us together exploring and talking on the camera. But sometimes we parted ways. Sometimes I would go off with Jacqueline, exploring classic cars, and I would shoot videography footage and photographed pictures on my camera recorder. But Jacqueline, she wasn't terribly keen on taking videography footage, but she certainly shot some pictures on her smart telephone. And then, when the moment was right, she took a selfie with me when standing beside a classic convertible. That was a wonderful picture, Jacqueline, I said when I looked at it to review it for myself. I was looking forward to doing this all day, Jacqueline said sweetly. I'm just so happy to finally be meeting you in person, and as well as your best friend David Scott as well. Well, thank you, Jacqueline, I said respectably. It is certainly most lovely of you to have said something so kindly like that. As the day of the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event 2026 progressed successfully, I was going to pose for a photographed picture of me sitting in a classic convertible. Hutchie and Mel, David, Dave and Jacqueline came to join. I asked the owner if I could sit inside the classic convertible. I was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, of course I'm ready. and I gave the owner my camcorder so that he could shoot a photograph of me sitting inside it. I was like, oof. But I knew, because it was a small classic convertible, and as a result of my height and weight, I had to be careful to clamber inside and out of it. Well, I didn't have to be as careful compared to the small classic cars with roofs built over them, but with the small classic convertible, I just had to be careful not to fall face first into the gear stick and the floor pedals. So I carefully clambered in. I very carefully clambered inside the small classic convertible. Quite possibly an MG, something like that. And so I steadily and carefully clambered inside it so that I didn't fall face first into the gear stick or the floor pedals. And once I was comfortably seated, the owner of the classic car shot my photographed picture. He shot about 4 or 5 photographed pictures of me sitting inside the classic car itself. And once the photographed pictures were shot, I carefully clambered out. "Oh," I said, as I certainly had to let out a groan because it ached at the bones and the joints to clamber inside and out of it because of how careful I had to be to clamber inside and out. I was like, well, I said, this, you can now see that being my height of 5'8" and 11 stone or 154 pounds in weight, I'm not exactly small, and I have to take things steadily and carefully to clamber inside and out of it. Never mind, Hutchie said. He said, well, we're all shorter than 5'6", so we wouldn't need to worry. We could just get in and out easy. But I do see what you meant, Foxy, Hutchie said. I said, well, could you imagine if that was our 7'2" friend, Andrew? I said, oh goodness, he probably wouldn't stand a chance to clamber inside and out of a small classic car, let alone a convertible. Hutchie said, you know, that I could really see they're not built for very, very tall people. And this could really explain why my 6'4" sons drive such large trucks, Jacqueline said in unison. I said, I'm going to now have a go sitting inside. And then Jacqueline walked over to the classic car owner and said, oh, can I sit inside the classic convertible, please? She said to the owner. Oh, the owner said, yes, of course. And then she passed over her smart telephone to the classic car owner so that the classic car owner could shoot some pictures of her sitting inside it. Jacqueline got herself positioned, ready for some photographs to be taken on her smartphone, and the owner shot some pictures of her sitting inside the classic convertible. After Jacqueline sat inside it, Hutchie had his go sitting inside it. And then he clambered out once he got his photographed pictures of him sitting inside the classic convertible taken, and once that was done, it was Mel's turn. Mel had her photographed pictures of her sitting inside the classic convertible itself. And after Hutchie and Mel had their photographed pictures taken of them sitting inside a classic convertible, Dave Bryan went after them. And Dave Bryan didn't have to be as careful as myself to clamber inside and out of a small classic convertible, though he does of it. But given him standing at a taller height than that of David Scott, Jacqueline, and Hutchie and Mel, but not my height, because Dave's only about 5'6", 5'6.5", something like that. He He reasonably steadily, but before long, clambered inside and out of the small classic convertible car, passed his camera recorder over to the owner so that the owner could shoot some photographed pictures of him sitting inside the classic convertible itself. Then once his photographs were taken of him sitting inside the classic convertible, the owner passed over Dave's camera recorder and Dave carefully got out of the classic convertible. And after Dave Bryan had some photographed pictures of him sitting inside the small classic convertible, David went in last to have his photographed pictures of himself sitting in the classic convertible. His photographed pictures of him sitting inside the small classic convertible was done, and once that was done, Hutchie decided to take a selfie of all of us standing beside the small classic convertible all together. He got his smart telephone out in a reasonably good position. Then myself, obviously Mel, Jacqueline, David and Dave all got well positioned for the photographed picture, and then Hutchie snapped the photograph away and then snapped another photographed selfie away, and then he showed it to us all, and we were deeply satisfied with the photographed selfie. And once the photographed selfies were taken, we continued observing the event and shot some of our own videography footage, as well as shooting some videography footage all together whenever we were having some fun and reasonably silly moments. And really just having a ball and enjoying the event itself. And before long, the event was over, and obviously every time the event was over, myself and David Scott and Dave Bryan were to watch the classic cars leaving the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors showground, and Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline decided to join all of us. And so we watched all the classic cars and vintage vehicles, or even some of the modern day vehicles taking part in the event, leaving the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event showground site. And once that was all done, it was time for us all to go home. Hutchie and Mel weren't going to be at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event for the next day, as it was running over the weekend, because it runs on the Saturday and Sunday before the first bank holiday, Monday of May. Yeah, you sure you don't want to come again tomorrow, Hutchie and Mel? I asked. Nah, sorry Foxy, but we can't. Hutchie said, we can't make it tomorrow, Mel and I. We've got to get back to Lincolnshire now. And don't forget, it's the Sunday Live we got to do, remember? Oh, yes, I nearly forgot. Thanks for reminding me, Hutchie. This was certainly most helpfully useful. I'm going to probably watch the Sunday Live once Magnificent Motors tomorrow is over. Dave said, yeah, and I'll give it a watch as well, yeah. I'm going to give it a watch. Do you think you'll be able to make Eastbourne Magnificent Motors tomorrow, Jacqueline? I asked. Sorry, Foxy, but no, Jacqueline said. I'm going to be exploring many parts of the United Kingdom, but I know we are going to meet again before I fly off back home to the United States of America. Oh, yes, no, I'm aware of that. Not to worry, but not to worry, Jacqueline, it's completely fine. It was certainly most lovely seeing you anyway. Jacqueline put her hand on my shoulder and looked at me smiling and said, "It was nice seeing you too," she said, giving my shoulder a nice affectionate rub, and then saying, "It's really been wonderful seeing your best friend David Scott and your good friend Dave Bryan, as you've been speaking so highly of them to me." You know, I mean, Foxy, I want to thank you for being very nice to us and welcoming us at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event. I mean, honestly, this really has been quite a good experience. You know, I've enjoyed it to the full, Hutchie said to me. "Oh yes, I've enjoyed it to the full as well, Foxy," Mel said. "Well, thank you, Hutchie and Mel, for your kindness towards me. It's been wonderful having you two attending the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors event with us all." "It's been great seeing you, Hutch, Mel and Jacqueline," Dave said respectfully. Yeah, no, it's been wonderful having your company, you three," Dave said towards Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline. "Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline, it was a pleasure seeing you two, and Foxy had been telling me about you before." Hutchie laughed. Well, you know, I feel happy to have met you, and I had heard of you before, David," Hutchie said towards him. And obviously, the moment we reached Eastbourne railway station, we exchanged our friendly goodbyes to Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline. And after we gave each other some handshakes and hugs goodbye, myself and David Scott were to be walking to the bus stop to catch our buses, whereas Dave had to walk to the car park where he'd parked his car. So before getting to the bus stop at Eastbourne for myself and David to catch our buses, we said our respectable goodbye to Dave Bryan and said we were going to see him tomorrow, the very next day, at the same location, being the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors showground for the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors 2023 event, being their second and final day of the whole entirety of the event taking place. And so we said our friendly goodbyes to Dave Bryan, and then he walked off, proceeding to get to his car, which he'd parked in a car park. And myself and David Scott walked over to the bus stop. And we both had some chatty conversations about all the fun we'd had at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors 2026 event, and all we were saying is we got to look forward to the absolute fun of tomorrow, as we were going to have to wait a whole year before Eastbourne Magnificent Motors was to be running again. But we knew this was the way it goes every year on an annual basis for Eastbourne Magnificent Motors itself. Before long, our bus arrived, and we both respectfully boarded the bus, sat down, and ended up relaxing on the seats we sat in and enjoyed the views as we were heading back home. The end. Well, thanks everybody all indeed for watching, and I thought I might do this episode because, Hutchie and Mel have been very good new friends to me. They're good and respectable new friends, I must say. And if you want to know who Hutchie is, Hutchie, he maintains the YouTube channel called The Fitness Hutch, which is generally fitness related. But what generally happens on the Fitness Hutch channel is that there is generally a friendly live stream every Sunday whenever chance allows for Hutchie and Mel to be hosting it. So in addition to the fitness content Hutchie does, he does do some vlogging from time to time, and he also does a live stream every week. Generally every week on a Sunday at around about 9 o'clock UK time, and And it's not just people in the United Kingdom who view him, it's people around the world who view both himself and Mel, just to say. You know. And also, not only have I had the good fortune to have made friends with Hutchie and Mel themselves, but I've also had the good fortune to have made some other wonderful new friends as a result of Hutchie and Mel, and I couldn't be more truly thankful for them because of this result. You know, I must say I do appreciate you two, Hutchie and Mel, and I'm certainly hoping our friendship will continue to flourish happily into the future years to come. Indeed so. But if this story was a bit too much for the two of you, I did not mean any harm whatsoever. But please do let me know what your thoughts were on this very story itself. You know. But thanks everybody, all indeed, for watching, and thanks Hutchie and Mel if you'd been watching this story, being the very episode of the Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chat series. And thanks David, and if you'd been watching this episode too, and this very story you've been listening to. And also thanks Dave if you've been watching and listening to this story too. And Jacqueline, above and beyond anything also, one of my friends who I am greatly entrusting towards and also love since befriending her from Hutchie and Mel's content. If you enjoyed this episode, Jacqueline, and if you had been watching, I certainly do hope you enjoyed this, you know. And just to say on a quick note before I get to the end of the very video itself, in real life I do not expect Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline to be meeting up with myself, David Scott and Dave Bryan at the Eastbourne Magnificent Motors 2026 event. I do not expect that to happen in real life in 2026, as I don't know if that would be in their suited interest, and also because we cannot plan that far ahead at the moment, because we are nowhere near 2026, we're only nearer to 2024, but still in the 2023 calendar year at the moment. Just to say, that is on a quick noting, you know. Thanks all for watching, and I shall certainly see you in the very next Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats episode, and I do hope you enjoyed the story, everybody. Especially you, David, Dave, Hutchie, Mel and Jacqueline. Ta-ta, another time. From Foxy. Oh.